This is Justine Sacco. She was the communications director for IAC, an internet company owned by media mogul Barry Diller. Today, the only thing she is looking for a new job after making a post on Twitter mocking AIDS victims, but only the black ones. Now, ordinarily I do a mini bio about Sacco and her history of incendiary tweets, but this video isn't about that. It's about the now routine online defense strategy being used to protect her and the thoroughly inadequate response of black men to it. At first, the blatantly racist talking points were few and far between, but the last 10 years they've become commonplace. There's a large number of white people who gladly swarm any news piece, article, or video highlighting racism, and their strategy is simple. Deny something's racist by claiming that it's true, or claim it's a joke, or if all else fails, claim it's PC censorship. Black men have been slow to recognize or respond to this pattern of attack, and it's become more and more bold, to the point now where the kind of blatantly racist talking points that we saw being routinely posted on online message boards is now coming out of the mouths of TV news anchors.
91% of homicides on black Americans were committed by other blacks. Also, 14% of homicides on white Americans were committed by blacks. Twice as many as the other way around. So the truth is that black men are not being hunted down by whites. But the lie was not challenged by the national media.
The point is not whether their talking points are true or not. The point is that when some act of racism is committed against black people, they've made it a point to dismiss it, justify it, or proudly praise it. That's the point. When somebody uses selective reporting of crime stats, you are supposed to strike back with an overwhelming counteroffensive. Remember, the old "these guys are the source of all crime" ploy is the exact same propaganda method the Nazis used against the Jews. Now, black men, take notes. This is how you fight back. This is the FBI website's crime statistics table for 2011. This is where the white supremacists have gotten the statistics that they use in their talking points. Let's examine the stats for arrests of persons under 18. The first thing that leapt out at me was that white arrests far outnumber black arrests in almost all categories. And this is just for offenders under 18. Want to know what a juvenile delinquent looks like? Here it is. But there were three categories where black arrests for persons under 18 actually outnumbered white ones: robbery, prostitution, and gambling. In other words, economic crimes. Other areas where white youths far outnumber black offenders are arson, weapons possession, vandalism, DWIs, offenses against family and children, drunkenness, and vagrancy. The pale males lead the league in crime in the under 18 category. Well, that's the kids. Let's move on to arrests for offenders over 18. The stats for gambling drops over 22% for blacks, while they almost triple for whites. Stolen property, the stats for whites increase, the ones for blacks decrease. Sex offenses, the numbers increase for whites and decrease for blacks. Same with arson as a violent crime and arson as a property crime. While crime of any sort by anyone is wrong in and of itself, we must realize that not everyone is equally to blame. There is a color of crime in the United States, but it isn't black. Crime itself is being used as a propaganda weapon of white supremacy to blame the victims and conceal the offenders. Now you see why the white trolls obsess over so-called violent crime stats. I say so-called because arson, sex offenses, and vandalism are all violent crimes, though they don't get touted. Whites commit the vast majority of hate crimes, and their savagery has gone unaddressed and unchanged for centuries. And even when we look at the violent crime stats the white supremacists like to brag about, we notice right away that the arrest for murder and rape for blacks goes down after age 18 while going up for whites. And when you look at a non-violent crime like robbery, the contrast is even more stark. Robbery arrests by blacks drops from almost 70% for those under 18 to a little over 50% for those over 18. However, robbery arrests for whites jumps a stunning 50%. To wit, as whites get older, they also become far more violent and more lawless. And while the crime stats that I saw interested me, what I found to be far more interesting were the crime stats that were missing. Notice how we have no stats for crimes such as mass murder, serial killing, or domestic terrorism.
The truth is that black men are not being hunted down by whites, as some hysterical commentators charged after the Zimmerman acquittal.
Now, it takes some digging, but what you quickly find is that although blacks are only 13% of the population, we are 3 times as likely to be a hate crime victim as a white person. This is why you see them trying to split hairs and dissect individual statistics by saying more whites are attacked by blacks, blah, blah, blah. They don't have real hate crimes to point to, so they've been reduced to cherry-picking fragments of the data, not even a whole statistic, but a fragment of one, in order to fabricate a black-on-white hate crime figure that doesn't truly exist. Now, this is clearly a distortion, but let's deal with the rhetoric as if it were true. As I've shown, even in cases where the offender is black and the victim is white, the cause of the crime is almost always the same. Money. In the black community, where money is not the main motive, it is usually murder done for respect. In a society where you're demonized, oppressed, and given no outlet to fight those who are oppressing you, apparently it comes as a huge surprise to white people that an oppressed underclass vent their anger on each other. The number one reason for black crime is economics. Either they're trying to survive, trying to get drugs, which is what an oppressed underclass has always done to escape their misery, to get the respect they're denied in the rest of the society, or they're trying to live the high life by ripping off other people. The number one reason for white crime, on the other hand, is they enjoy it. But all this constant kvetching over crime by the whites really becomes ridiculous when one considers that, according to the same FBI whose statistics these bigots get so worked up over, crime in the U.S. is actually at an historic low. Not just historic for the last 30 or so years, but a dramatic drop in the last 5 years alone. But we all know the problem here isn't crime at all. It's the dramatic diminution of white power on all levels. In recent years, white power has begun to hurt whites themselves, and the white men who run the society desperately want a distraction to get the attention off themselves, and the rank-and-file white men desperately want a foil they can use to feel better about their own sorry lives. Neither the rich white man nor the poor one has any excuse for failure. America has been tailor-made to guarantee white male success, and yet everywhere you look, you're starting to see nothing but white failure. The old black man as the perpetrator ruse has become so useless that now the whites have been reduced to defending armed thugs who gun down children walking home. Now, when these guys get confronted, they immediately backpedal.
The problem in the violence in this country isn't generated by whites. It's generated primarily by blacks. So it's in context. Surely you know that.
Well, the majority of people are actually killed by someone of their own race, and I'm sure that you know that. So you have the majority of white people being killed by white people, 83%.
This is all about protecting Americans, no matter what color they are. That's what this story of this Trayvon Martin is all about, protecting Americans.
But the damage is done. Their goal is to get their talking point out there into the public consciousness. When they launch their racist salvos and nobody responds, they win. And the knee-jerk defenses that Justine Sacco received are all part of it. For example, after Sacco was rightly fired, the dimwits over at Breitbart ran a piece filled with the typical white male phony outrage. This time they started off by attacking the public itself, saying, if you think for whatever reason that what happened to Justine Sacco is okay, I'm assuming you won't have any problem with me watching your personal social media accounts blowing up at Breitbart News what I deem offensive, and then without asking you, contacting your employer and demanding you be fired. Your rules, not mine. That's very interesting coming from this group, because it was Breitbart, you'll recall, who did exactly that to Shirley Sherrod. You'll remember she was the Department of Agriculture employee who the now deceased Andrew Breitbart libelously destroyed the career of with a deceptively edited tape posted on his website. And he himself went on any news outlet dumb enough to have him claiming that she was a racist. He did not give her any opportunity to defend herself, nor did he give her any warning of the attack he was launching. Sherrod had no idea she had been fired, nor had she been given any chance to explain herself beforehand. She'd never even gotten the chance to hear the claims against her. All she knew was she was driving home and got an emergency phone call from her supervisors telling her to pull over on the side of the road right then and there and to text in her resignation that very instant. Why? Because the website Breitbart and its online racist army supported by Fox News created a fake controversy with made-up evidence, and as a result, the White House was so eager to try to get out ahead of the scandal that they couldn't wait for her to come back to the office and type out a resignation. Now, Breitbart's false story caused real consequences. They utterly destroyed Shirley Sherrod's career, her life, and her reputation, all based on lies. Sacco wrecked her own job, however, with the truth. In fact, that's Breitbart's and the white blogosphere's entire problem with it. Sacco was fired based entirely on a post that can be taken no other way than the way in which she said it. And even the liars over at Breitbart seemed to realize what hypocrites they were, because later in the same smear piece, they qualified their defense of Sacco on the grounds that she is a private citizen, as opposed to a public servant like Sherrod, I suppose. Now, there's been plenty of defenses offered by the white trolls, and it's a shame that black men in particular have not upped their debate IQ, because dealing with the talking points is easy enough to do. First of all, Sacco's claim that being white somehow makes you immune to AIDS is a joke on her, because the first recorded AIDS case was a white man, a homosexual airline employee from Canada. The white trolls like to use Wikipedia as their source. Now, it needs to be stated that Wikipedia is an open source website that can be and frequently is edited by any user who has an account. So when some Stormfront refugee quotes Wikipedia as their source, you need to ask yourself if they are in fact quoting bogus information that they themselves put there. However, for the sake of argument, let's use Wikipedia as a source. It immediately disproves the white troll's talking point that Africa has some sort of monopoly on AIDS. Of the top 20 countries with AIDS, India ranks 3rd, Russia 12th, and the US 9th. In fact, to go further down the line, the Ukraine ranks higher than Ghana, the Sudan, or Rwanda, and France ranks higher in AIDS cases than the Congo and higher than its former colonies of Mali or even Haiti. More Germans have AIDS than Jamaicans, and you have a greater chance of getting AIDS in Switzerland than you do in Somalia. Now, I'm not saying that Wikipedia is any sort of reliable source, but what I am saying is that you can beat the white trolls on their own terms. So why aren't you? Some of you think if you ignore these chumps, they'll go away. Well, let me tell you something. It is not harmless to allow these online bigots to keep attacking us. The reason why Trayvon Martin was lynched in the media is because black men didn't even try to mount a substantive media counteroffensive. We sat back and allowed the Stormfront roving racists and their broadcast allies to repeat their made-up statistics and twisted facts, and in doing so, we allowed them to forward a media narrative that George Zimmerman's own lawyers took into court and used to get a cold-blooded murderer off the hook. Even on forums where they can and do fabricate the data, white trolls are still proven wrong about their talking points. But this type of much-needed debunking is few and far between. Our enemies are beating us by default because we do nothing but watch. Black men, when are you going to realize you're in a war? We need to talk to each other, educate each other, and defend each other. If you have a YouTube account, you're supposed to be using it to promote your agenda. But that assumes you have one, because the white trolls certainly do, and they have a ready haven in the mainstream media, and there's good reason for that. This is Ike Perlmutter. You don't know who he is, and that's a shame, because he's not only the CEO of Marvel Entertainment, yes, that Marvel Entertainment, he's also one of the largest shareholders in the Walt Disney Corporation and one of the wealthiest men in America. But he's also got some pointed things to say about black men. When Terrence Howard got fired from Iron Man 2, Perlmutter was reported as having said it didn't matter who they replaced him with because all black people look alike anyways. Think about that the next time you wonder why Marvel never puts out any black superheroes. We don't know who these people are on the internet carrying on this web-based media jihad against us, but we are starting to find out, aren't we? And this disease has spread beyond the usual online sewers. It is now a regular part of so-called mainstream journalism. Next time you see some troll posting the same old canned racist statistics they picked up on Stormfront, take a moment and ask yourself, does this clown work for a TV station or newspaper or major media website? The chances are that they do. What we need is a media counteroffensive, an army of black citizen journalists. That means you. Yes, you watching this video. It's way past time black men began acting as our own media, rather than looking for something to be entertained by or waiting for someone else to post a video or column so you can say, right on. Why don't you do some legwork of your own? Black men are where this will have to start because no one else gives a damn except us. Some of us anyway. Stop waiting for someone else to speak up for you, because any man who wants someone else to do his talking for him doesn't deserve to be heard. Our enemies are on the attack daily, and who is exposing them? Who is refuting them? Who is making them pay for it? The internet is a powerful tool meant to empower you, but even the most powerful tool on earth is worthless if you don't use it. And sitting back watching or reading what others have done makes it where all you can be is a meaningless supporter at best and a helpless victim at worst. I've made my choice long ago what I would be, and it's not going to be a victim or a passive observer. Now, show what you are going to do.
Hey guys, so I'm coming on here because I want to go over some of the crime statistics. I get quite a bit of comments from people, white trolls mostly, that are spewing out, you know, black people have the highest percentage of crime, and they commit most of the violence. Crime by nature, they're very violent. So I'm going to talk about this a little bit in this video, and I did this already in the past, you know, and gave the links to it. But right now, in this video, I'm actually going to show you what I'm referring to. Before I do that, I want to give you a little bit of context on statistics. Anyone who understands statistics, which you just have to have a basic working knowledge of it, will know that the only way you're going to get accuracy when dealing with statistics is, number one, if you have equal population sizes, okay? Now, we know in America, the majority of the population is white. So therefore, when you're comparing white crime to black crime, you're not really going to get accuracy if you do it by statistics. You're going to get a smokescreen, basically, because it's the equivalent of this, and this is to show you exactly how it is. Say that you have 100 oranges and 50 of them are rotten. Okay, so you have a population of 100 oranges, 50 of them is rotten. Then you take a population of 160, you can have 160 apples and 60 of those apples are rotten. Although with the apples you have a higher number of rotten apples, you're going to have a lower percentage than the oranges, okay? Because that's simply how statistics work. Unless you compare equal population sizes, you're not going to have accuracy. So when you see all these comments and you see these white people saying, oh, you know, black people have a higher percentage of crime. They're literally giving you a smokescreen. That's what they're doing. They're providing a smokescreen using percentages. Excuse me. Notice you never hear them say black people commit more crimes. You actually might hear some people say black people commit more crimes. You'll see trolls doing it, but you really won't see this being said over the news because it's simply isn't true. So what I'm going to do is, because I notice a lot of white people, they like to reference the FBI crime statistics. They'll only go to the percentage part because, again, percentages is only going to be accuracy, and it's only going to paint an accurate picture if you're comparing equal population sizes. We already know that's not the case in America. It's impossible to do that. So with percentages, you're never going to have accuracy. You're not going to get an idea of who's actually doing the most. The only way you're going to do that is to compare the raw numbers, which anyone in statistics who have a basic working knowledge of statistics, anyone will tell you that you can't, that's not accurate. You need to, when you have unequal population sizes, you need to go by the raw numbers. They're not doing this for a reason. So I want you guys to look at the, so we're going to look first at the FBI crime statistics. We're going to look at that. And I'm going to show you guys something because this is a thing that a lot of white people like to reference. Now, if you notice, you'll see that this is the FBI crime statistics website. It'll give you a breakdown and a table of the arrests for these crimes. Now, mind you, it says 2013. The FBI crime reports doesn't go by a yearly report. They go by a period. So it'll either be from 2010 to 2013, 2013 to 2016. Not saying that that's how it is, but it goes by a period. It's not going to go by every single year. So the most recent one was for the period of 2013. But so let's look at this now. If we look at total crime, because white people like to tell you black people commit more crimes. So these are going by the arrest for these crimes. Now, you know, the FBI statistics isn't going to show you convictions because court trials, they take a very long time. You know, you can get plea deals, a number of things that can happen that can, you know, change the outcome of it. So they're going by arrest for it. But so look, if we go by here, we go by the total charge offenses. So if you go by overall total arrests for crime, if you go by white, you have 6,204,197. With the black people, you have 2,549,655. So that right there is already telling you in overall crimes, white people, keep in mind, all white people aren't committing crimes. So they're a percentage of the white population that are actually committing these crimes. That's what they won't say. That's what they fail to tell you when they're going over these crimes. They'll say, oh, black people have more crimes than white people. Now, if you break it down to raw numbers, then you get accuracy. So, because with this, you see, according to the FBI crime database, you see that white people are actually being arrested for far more crimes. Now, they'll profile black people, but really they should be profiling white people because they are the ones, if they were actually going by who's committing the most crimes, they would be going in accordance to the FBI crime table. They will be doing it by white because they're committing over 4 million crimes more than black people are, by and large. Okay, now, so if you go down to murder and non-negligent manslaughter, this is literally the only category that black people are arrested more, and the variation is really not that different. So if you look at white people have 3,799 arrests, black people have 4,379. So if you go to the percentage, the overall percentage of crime. Now look at the total percentage of crime. If you look at that here, you have 68.9% for white people. Now, even with percentages, they will tell you that black people commit 50% of the crimes, but really they don't, because these are the total charges, total arrests. But that means an accumulation of all these crimes combined. That's what that means. Total crimes, all of these combined. So if you look at the percentage, white people are actually, even by percentage, committing more. They're committing, or they're being arrested for 68.9% of the crimes, whereas black people are 28.3. So there's a significant difference in it. But, you know, again, smoke screens. Now, if you go by the murder and negligent manslaughter, then you will see 45 versus 52%. That's a 7% difference, okay? That's a 7% difference. And again, you're not comparing equal population sizes here. So even that 7% variation really is really small and insignificant if you look at the fact that you're not comparing population sizes, okay? So these are just of the people that were arrested. This isn't of the whole total population. So even still, because there are more white people than black people, you still are going to have unequal population sizes. Now, there's this myth of the black man being this rapist, boogeyman, sexual predator. But if you go over here to total rapes committed, you see white people committing 8,946, black people 4,229. Go to percentages, is 66.2% white, 31.3% black. So the thing of it is by and large, they're committing 30% more. This is double. This is more than double what black people are committing. More than double. But you'll see them saying, oh, black people, violent crime. Now look at robbery. Then you have robbery. And here's another one that, which is understandable. Robbery is a crime committed by economics. So that's kind of understandable. Obviously, you have black people, they're the poorest population, they're going to have a higher robbery. Obviously, anyone can look up and find out robbery is really a crime. I mean, you can go into a store and steal some cigarillos and run and leave, and the cop catch you, that's considered robbery. So anyway, this is still marginal. If you look at this, for white 41%, black 56%. So it's not really that, it's a little over 10% more. But again, understandable because that's an economic crime. White people have the wealth, so technically they really shouldn't have any robbery crimes if you look at it. Now look at aggravated assault. White people have 183, black people 98. So literally they're committing almost 100,000 more aggravated assaults than black people are. If you go to the percentage, white 62, black 33. So again, white people are committing, by and large, almost double, sometimes over double the amount that black people are doing. Go to burglary, same thing, 136,990. 61,000 for black people. So the percentages end up 67.5 versus 30.4, which is black people. So you see the common theme. It's the same with larceny and theft. Look at the numbers of theirs. Look at the percentage. White people 68.3, black 28.7. Look at motor vehicle theft. Go down here, 34 white, 15,000 black, 66 versus 30. So if you look at the common theme of it, white people are committing double the crimes that black people are committing. Now look at violent crime, because this is what they really like to say, violent crime. So look at total for white, 228,782. Look at black people, 151,000, significantly less. You have 58% for white people, 38% for black. But they'll tell you, again, black people are the most violent people. Look at all these other ones. Property crime, double, 855,000. Other assaults, you can just stolen property. In all categories, if you go down here, white people are committing more. Drug abuse violations. Now, we already know most black men, most black people in general, are in jail for drug offenses. However, drug abuse violations, look at white people, 815,000 versus 365,000. Okay, so the percentage for black people, for white people, 67.7, 30.4 for black people. So that'll tell you and give you, even if you go down this, and I'm going to leave you the link in the description so you can see this. Now, the thing of it is that, again, when these are broken down and you see the percentages, you're only going to see propaganda. That's exactly only what you're going to see. You're going to see propaganda because, again, the media has to paint a picture. They have to give you information that's consistent with their rhetoric of the black boogeyman. So that's why they're going to distort the information. They're not going to give you the actual facts because, again, any one of those news media can take this chart and break it down if they want to, but they're not doing it. So now let's look at the Department of Justice statistics, because a lot of white people like to go by this too. They like to really go by, oh, the Department of Justice crime statistics. Now, so let's look at, because the white people will tell you, oh, black people are committing more crimes against white people than anything, they're really violent. So look at the race of the victim. So for white people, if you go by white people, 56% of white people are victimizing other white people. Look at the race of the offender, race of the victim. White on white crime between them, 56%. Look at the rate of race of the offender, 13.7 against white people. Okay, so black people are not committing crimes against white people. They're just not doing it. If you look at the black one, black people, 10.4% of them now is committing crimes, and that's because of black people and white people generally do not live in the same area. So that's why you're going to see 10% of white offenders victimizing or white percenters victimizing black people. Black people by far commit more crimes against other black people, but again, they're grouped together. So the people aren't going to travel hundreds of miles to commit crimes against different people when they don't have to. So that's what you have to understand with that. And if I'm going to put this in there too, so you can look at this too, but this is a distribution of violent victimizations based on race, because they'll tell you, oh, more black people are committing crimes against white people than anything else. They're really not. Even the ones where white are victimizing black, it's a marginal. It's what, a 3% difference, 10.4 to 13.7. That's what, a 10, maybe like a 3%, 3.5% difference. So that speaks a lot too, because the thing of it is they want to, they want to, let me just scroll down this actually, because I didn't even look at this. But yeah, they want to sit here and tell you that, they want to sit here and tell you. Now, here's another screen, because white people, I do want to show you this chart actually, because white people will tell you black on black crime is such a problem. Okay, they want to tell you black on black crime. Look at this chart right here. So this says choice of victims by white violent offenders. Notice how white people at an 82.4% is victimizing other white people. Then they're victimizing Hispanics and everyone else too. So they commit a whole lot of crime. Now go down to black people. Choice of victim by black violent offenders. Black victims by black victims is 40.9%. So they'll tell you they're the problem with black on black crime, but in reality, the problem is with white crime against humanity. And these, the Department of Justice, show that they're victimizing everybody. They're victimizing themselves. They're victimizing other people. Black people really aren't doing that much. Okay, so 38% of them is white. 40.9% is black. So really, black people aren't that discriminate with who they're victimizing. If you look at this, they're really not that discriminate. There's not that much variation statistically between black people victimizing white and black people. There's like what, a 2.3% difference. So yeah, and look at the Hispanics. Now Hispanics, choice of the victim by Hispanics. Hispanics have a higher degree of victimizing white people than any one of them. The black people, surely not black people. Black people are not even victimizing white people to the extent Hispanics are, but you'll just hear a whole lot of it. Black on black crime against white people. So that's the thing that I want you guys to see. And I'm going to put these charts so you can look into the links in the video. My question is this. If black people are violent by nature, why do white people commit more violent crimes than black people do? Despite the fact that we live in a country, why are they arrested for more of them? Despite the fact that we live in a country that has police officers who have been proven time and time again to racial profile and show preferential treatment towards white people. So white people, despite all their privilege, they still have a higher arrest rate than black people do for these violent crimes. So that should tell you something. Why do white people, in addition to their present violent actions, have a history of committing the most violent acts and black people don't? Why are white men your #1 mass shooters, serial killers, rapers, and child molesters? Well, why is that the case? Because you'll have a lot of white people saying, oh, black people are the most violent group, and I've seen this a lot in my comments. So why do these numbers suggest differently then? you guys have to understand the psychology in this. And this is the reason why I make these videos, because you need to understand the psychology in this. Manipulation literally is one of the concepts that America was built on. The entire educational system is built on manipulation. You know, whenever you decide to cherry pick certain truths or omit the truth or details that will lead to the truth, you're manipulating. You're trying to be manipulative because you want to control the perception of the masses. So that's what you're doing. This is why if you watch Fox News, you will never hear them say outright black people commit more crimes. You won't hear them say that. They're not going to say outright black people commit more crimes than white people do. What you will hear them say is that black people have the highest percentage per capita of crimes, because they're going to say that because they know most people have no working knowledge of how statistics actually work and what they mean. They're relying on the ignorance and stupidity of the masses. That's really what they're doing, because again, propaganda wouldn't be successful if it weren't for the masses believing it and not doing the research and choosing to believe a lie. Since America is predominantly white, you can guess who the masses of ignorant people is. I mean, you can just literally, I'm not making this up. This is just what it is. But the interesting thing that I realized is that, and this just goes to why I believe that I get the response to these videos, because rest assured, even with this video, they're going to pick it apart. They're going to call it racist. They're going to create smoke screens. They're going to deflect. They're going to do everything that they can to tear this apart. Although the proof is in the pudding, they're even going to go so far as to say, well, white people are a higher percentage, so they should have higher crimes. Not necessarily. If you're going around parading yourself off and advertising yourself after moral paradigms of the country, then you really shouldn't be committing more crimes. Just because you're a higher population does not mean that you should automatically be committing more crimes or being arrested for them. You shouldn't be committing more crimes based off what you said about your own group of people. You guys have said that black people are the most violent, so naturally black people by numbers should be having more crimes, but they're not. White people are, and that's because your history shows that you are the most violent. Black people are violent in certain situations. It's circumstantial with black people. I'm really feeling like it is inherent in white people. Now, and this isn't, of course, all white people, because the thing of it is again, all white people aren't committing crimes, just like all black people aren't committing crimes. So this isn't a blanketed statement saying that all white people are out here being psychopaths, but obviously the majority of them are. Now, the thing is, though, white people, with their attitude and their reaction to this, have been lied to just like black people have. They've been subject to the same educational system that we have been. They've been told that they are better. When you go through history and you show one group of people as subservient to the other group of people, you're automatically telling them that they're better. When you go out into the world and you're getting treated better than other people, you're telling them by action that they're better. You're reinforcing that belief that they're better. Their reaction to me shows that they feel like they're better, regardless to how much they may deny it. So that's the thing. You have to see what they're saying and what they're not saying. You have to learn how to read between the lines. And a lot of times, unless you break it down and analyze it, you're not going to understand that. There's also a psychology behind them being in denial. The thing of it is when I'm presenting truths like this to them, even if I speak out against, you know, the declining, the decline of their race, their birth rate, you know, their genetics being recessive, what I'm essentially doing is chipping away at the foundation of white people's self-esteem. This built on a lie. That's really what I'm doing, or what they see that I'm doing. They see me chipping away at that wall that's holding their self-esteem intact, and they don't like it. So that's why they're lashing out. Why I'm doing this by simply showing them with facts, because again, none of them has been able to refute anything that I've said, because they can't. They're not going to find the information out there. But what I'm doing by presenting this truth is breaking down their what's holding their self-esteem intact. This is why they hate me. This is why they give me the death threats, the rapes. They'll call me racist, although I have no power to oppress or deny them anything. That's why they do that, because they're lashing out. It's kind of like if you're around someone and that person is able to analyze you, and that person is bringing out things in you that you don't really want to acknowledge, then you're going to try to separate yourself from that person. You might lash out, you might even fight them. Certain people do this. They even like some people, if they're not ready to embrace certain problems that they have, what they will do is they will disconnect distance themselves from that person that's bringing truth. Because for most people, they will embrace a comfortable lie rather than the harsh truth, because the truth can be very harsh, especially if they've lived that lie and believed that lie their entire life. So what I'm doing to them is taking away the comfort of the lie from them and replacing it with the truth and saying, no, this is really who you are. This is why they'll quote percentages rather than raw numbers, because the percentages create the smoke screen. The percentages reinforces the lie that they want to believe. So they want to believe that Black people are more violent than white people. So therefore, they're going to stick to percentages. Because if you stick to the percentages, because you have unequal population sizes, Black people's percentages, unless they're not committing any crimes, is going to be higher than white people's, because you have a very small 13% being compared to 80%. So you're never going to have that. So what they're going to do is they're going to stick to percentages and per capita, because it supports and reinforces that lie they want to believe. They're doing this to be manipulative too, because in order for them to believe that they're better, you have to believe that they're better too. So you have to believe that you're worse than them so that they can feel that they're better, because then you need to act out that inferiority. So they can't just say that you're inferior. You have to believe it and you have to act on it. And so that's why they throw out percentages rather than raw numbers, because the raw numbers are going to show you the truth. The percentages isn't, because they're, again, population sizes. So they simply just don't want to face the reality of what they are, and I'm going to keep putting that truth in there to them. I'm going to continue to expose the truth, because they need to know who they are. They want to sit here and pathologize Black people. They want to sit here and create lies and smoke screens about Black people. So I'm going to present the truth to you with actual facts. Like, comment, and subscribe, and share the video.